I remember the fluorescent lights flickering above me as I sat in the cramped corner of the office, fingers flying across the keyboard, eyes locked on the monitor. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't flashy, but it was mine. 1 full year of work, code, documentation, analysis, prototypes, models, all quietly accumulating in a single, growing folder buried deep in the company server. I'd sacrifice birthdays, holidays, and entire weekends, chasing a vision I believed would redefine our entire department, maybe even the company. It began as a sketch, a rough idea that lived in the margins of a notepad. But as the months passed, it became something more solid, measurable. I had created a predictive algorithm that could forecast operational bottlenecks weeks in advance, optimize resource allocation across departments, and reduce redundancies that had plagued us for years. In testing, it had cut costs by 18%. Quietly, secretly, I even saw the possibility of company-wide transformation, a chance to become more than just another mid-level analyst, a chance to matter. But then it happened. The morning started like any other. I was sipping bitter coffee from a chipped mug, waiting for my computer to finish updating, when I got the message, "Need to see you in my office, now." It was from my supervisor, Mark, a man who smiled with his mouth, but never with his eyes. The kind of supervisor who never remembered birthdays, but always remembered to CC you when things went wrong. I walked into his office with my notebook in hand, already half suspecting some fire to put out, some number he didn't understand, some report he didn't read. But the moment I stepped inside, I knew this wasn't routine. His screen was already on, my folder open, my work, every file, every line, every document I'd meticulously built over 12 grueling months. "What's going on?" I asked, barely above a whisper. He didn't answer right away. Just clicked again, and hovered the mouse over the folder. "Mark," I said, my voice rising, "what are you—" And then he did it. One final click, a confirmation, and it was gone. A whole year, vanished in 2 seconds. I couldn't speak, my breath caught in my throat, hands trembling, heart pounding. It felt like watching your house burn down while you're still inside it. "Start over," he said flatly, as if asking me to remake a cup of coffee. "Your direction was off. It doesn't align with new objectives." I was stunned. "New objectives? Mark, I've presented this to you 4 times over the last year. You signed off on every stage." He shrugged. "Management priorities have shifted. It's not personal. Not personal." I couldn't even process it. I left the room in a daze, eyes burning. When I got back to my desk, the folder was still gone. I scrambled through the recycle bin, the backup drives, the logs, nothing. He'd wiped it all. Not archived, not transferred, not questioned, just deleted. I sat there in silence. I don't know how long. Long enough for my coworkers to glance over, then look away. Long enough for the world to keep spinning, while mine cracked in half. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at my ceiling, jaw clenched, teeth grinding, wondering what I'd done to deserve it. And the more I thought about it, the more it didn't make sense. No memo, no company announcement, no official project pivot, just Mark, erasing me. But then came the message. It landed in my inbox at 3:14 a.m., long after I'd given up on sleep. A LinkedIn message from a recruiter with a curious subject line. "Opportunity to discuss your recent project." I clicked. It was from a mid-sized competitor we often brushed off. Nothing threatening, nothing revolutionary, but the recruiter's message was specific. Too specific. "I heard about your algorithm. Congratulations. We'd love to discuss your approach and its impact on real-time operations management." No one outside the company should have known about that. Unless the next few days were a blur. I started digging, quietly. I combed through old emails, backups, server logs, anything I could get my hands on. And that's when I saw it. 2 weeks before the deletion, Mark had downloaded my folder to an external drive. I stared at the log for 10 minutes straight. The timestamp, the action, the confirmation. There it was. Proof. Mark didn't just delete my work. He stole it. I was furious. Not just at the betrayal, but at the audacity. He didn't understand what he had. He didn't see the complexity, the years of research, the careful balancing of data models and constraints. He saw a shortcut, a golden ticket he could pass off as his own. And then, I understood the message from the recruiter. Mark hadn't just erased my work. He had repackaged it, shared it, possibly even sold it. But he underestimated something vital. Me. I scheduled a meeting with the recruiter under the guise of exploring options. We met in a downtown coffee shop, quiet and out of the way. When I sat down, I kept my cards close. I understand your firm's been reviewing some innovative approaches, I said carefully. She smiled. We have. And from what we've seen, your system could fill several strategic gaps for us. And where exactly, I asked, did you see it? She hesitated, just for a second. A flicker of discomfort. It was presented by someone in your organization, Mark Peterson. There it was. He had presented my work to a competitor, branded it as his own, and from the sound of it, he had used it as leverage for a potential consulting deal. I leaned back in my chair. Let me ask you something, I said. What if I told you Mark didn't build that system? Her eyes widened slightly. What if I told you, I continued, that I created it, alone, over the course of a year, and that 2 weeks ago, he deleted it from the servers and told me to start over? She blinked, slowly, carefully. That would change things, she said, significantly. I pulled out a flash drive and placed it on the table. Here's what I can prove, I said. Line-by-line development, email trails, testing records, timestamps, everything, and I could see it in her face. This wasn't just gossip. This was gold. This was leverage. Not just for them, for me. The next week moved fast. I met with their CTO, then their operations director. I laid out the full architecture, answered technical questions Mark could never fake his way through, and offered enhancements I'd been too nervous to pitch at my own company. They made me an offer, not just to join them, to lead a new department, to own my system, to develop it, scale it, and, most important of all, put my name on it. I didn't accept right away. I needed one more thing. I walked into Mark's office one last time, just after lunch. He looked surprised to see me, like a ghost had walked through the door. Hey, he said slowly, how's the rebuild coming along? I sat down without asking. I know what you did, Mark. He tilted his head. Excuse me? You stole my work. You presented it to CTS partners, pitched it as your own. I met with them. His eyes flickered. Barely, but it was there. You don't have proof. I smiled. You sure about that? I reached into my bag and set down a folder. A printed record of every email, every timestamp, every backup, the external drive access log, his IP address, the download, the metadata, everything. You can either resign quietly, I said, or I can take this to legal, HR, and every executive I've ever worked under. And let me tell you something, this won't end well for you. He stared at the folder, then at me. You've made a mistake, he said. No, I replied. You did. I stood up and walked out of his office for the last time. 3 weeks later, I started my new job. CTSP gave me everything I needed. A team, resources, the title of Director of Predictive Systems. But more than that, they gave me respect, ownership, credit. Within 6 months, we rolled out my algorithm across 3 major sectors. Costs dropped. Efficiency soared. My name appeared in press releases, case studies, even a couple of industry panels. My former company, they stayed quiet. Mark's resignation was buried in HR updates. No explanation, no fanfare, but I knew, and so did he. I rebuilt my system from memory. Better, faster, stronger. I added features I hadn't dared to propose before, and every time I improved it, I thought back to that moment in his office. That single click, that smug dismissal. Start over. He had no idea that was the best thing he could have said to me, because I did start over, just not the way he expected. And this time, I didn't just build a system. I built a legacy.